It starts with James usually has an idea, either a full developed idea, or a musical idea, or kind of a hybrid of either, and he'll bring it to the band and we'll work through it. You know, with this last record we spent 5 days a week in a rehearsal space trying to check things out with each other and trying to like develop ideas. Then we brought them into Arn, producer, and they got even further, and then we'd take a kind of a broad general view and see if we could make them even better, and then I'd write to it, and eventually we got like a song that we kept.
A lot of it was sort of like the paint job, like building the house or whatever was the same. We knew what the house was going to look like, what the shape was, but then on the outside, it's like it was all the tiny little things that really changed the song. And like a long Ebo part going through a verse can make it sound eerie, where before it felt like it had like a folk vibe to it and stuff. There's a song on the album called Broken Words that we added some ambience to it, and then we decided just for once to just mute the guitars in the verse, and all this ambience was enough to carry the song, and so we just took out the guitars and stuff like that, just giving you a different perspective, a different sound, and then hearing the words on it and getting a full emotional attachment and emotional goal. It could be totally different than what it was supposed to be, but still end up really, really cool.
I think the themes to the new album, as far as lyrics go, I think there are themes in there. There's still like there's a lot of themes of connections, like relationships and like human connections, even talking about as literal as talking about hands. There's a lot of like references. It's funny because it wasn't even intentional. I hate fluffy songs. I hate them. It's not whatever I want to do. I can't even do it. I can't write like a straight ahead love song or a song about absolutely nothing. It's got to mean something to someone, even if it's like the most inside thing. Like there's some lyrics that are totally context sensitive to in my head and in the band. Like, you know, there's stuff that's going to mean more to the band than it means to anybody else, but if you can pick up on any of it, you know, I'd be happy.
We've always thought of or spoken of the studio as like a microscope, where live everything goes by in a blur and you see it in like this big flat poster, and then in the studio you see every part and every beat. You know, it's just so specific. So as intimidating as that is as a player, like, you know, you listen to yourself back and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was so off. But the possibilities of being able to get in so close and just like draw out, if there's like a note in a chord that you're like, this is what's making this chorus feel so awesome, let's get in there and let's just grab that note and make it pile on more of that note and kind of things. Just like really looking at it specifically, it changes the whole song. I'd done it. I didn't have as clear a vision on the last record of what I wanted for the cover, but the guys trusted me enough to try it again this time, and I had a way clearer vision. I came across this great artist, Jeff Farber, who really understood what I was trying to say, and that was how it all came about. And it was really cool. It's just really cool that they allow me to explore that side of it without, you know, everyone trying to say like, well, I want to do this, I want to do that kind of thing. That was really cool, and it just keeps your brain working while you're just playing the same chords over and over again for 6 months. If you've forgotten what that is called First Time, it's called First Time. The music originally was just, it was really mellow. It had like a really sort of like Beatles vibe to it. And obviously we made it quite a lot more complicated. I love this chorus just because the music is like some of the choppiest and complicated to follow. But the melody over top of it is so simple. And it was actually a chorus that came along late in the game. It wasn't the original chorus for the song.
The song Drag You Down lyrically is really, really simple. The verse is almost made of nothing, but it kind of turns around on itself in the way that there is an intangible it is kind of, the lyric is it's biting, it's bleeding, and in the second verse it kind of, the other half turns around, and it's the exact same thing with the chorus. Pull me under before I drag you down. It's cool because either way you're going down. It's a total song, just over the top frustration, which is kind of exactly what we were feeling in the studio at that time. It's definitely what I was going through.
Traditionally, how we record our records, like, we record the whole record layer by layer. And with this song, it was such a rush because we had this opportunity to get on this Scream 3 and like get it out there so people who maybe never heard of the band before had a chance to hear it. And we all actually, except for myself, so I don't feel that bad, but everybody else caught had a fevers and caught the flu. Like during this 1 week, we had to hit the deadline, and we all just went through a lot of shit to get it out there. And even when it was finally done, we were like, you know, everybody was sort of just in this whirlwind, and we're like, what the fuck is this? Is this the way it's supposed to be? It's like, all of a sudden it was out the door, and we're like, just sort of all sitting there, like, had no idea what just happened. And then we were actually, turned out that we were all really happy when we sort of, our fevers broke and listened back to it. It turned out to be a pretty cool experience, but just shows that I guess we don't buckle under pressure, but we definitely don't enjoy it.
When we did the demo of Walking in My Shoes, we just had, like what we were talking about before, you know, we just happened to capture this moment, and I think the chorus was too high for Scott to sing, so I sang it along with his lower voice, and just the mesh of the two was this cool combination that we stuck to, and we hoped that we could recapture on the new one. That's probably my fondest memory of that song. It was just like, we did it in a day in this cool studio with this cool engineer named Justin, and he just like banged it off, but it just sounded like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be.
I remember that. I was like, I remember singing like 1 or 2 takes, like asking the guys, are we anywhere close to where the song should be? And they're like, yeah, I think you did it. I think you nailed it. Mm-hmm. This is the most effortless vocal thing. It's great.
Carousel actually is one of the probably the most interesting songs we've ever made, because there's very few moments in that song that are the same as last time. You like each pre-chorus progresses, and there's always little things being added to that. And as far as the verse, it was cool because we sort of wanted to make the verse feel like you were watching an old like 30s horror movie, like just this weird, almost like it's creepy, but there's still like a certain level of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just we didn't want it to be a creepy, like as in like, ooh, scary, there's like ghosts around us, but like creepy as in the fact that it's just like something very unnerving about it.
I guess if it was inspired by anything, it was inspired by reading Ishmael. I guess it was like, what are you willing to do in your life to make it better? Like, how much are you gonna like see through like the veneer and actually change stuff? It's probably the exact thought at that time, but that's where the inspiration came from, and it's like it's really risky to kind of uproot everything and, you know, change yourself.
It's about like how far does someone have to go before you just say like, I gotta walk away from this kind of thing. How low do things have to get? And I can remember I can remember everything about that song. Just writing it in New York City and just feeling really sort of like bummed out and really hot and trapped in this little dorm where my girlfriend was staying for the summer, and just like, I hate this, I just want to leave kind of thing. And on the demo you can hear like sirens out the window and stuff like that. It was one of those cool things where, you know, obviously we don't live in New York, but I happen to be here, and that song sticks out as like I can remember the entire process for that.
For the Ocean was written at a time where I realized that I couldn't disconnect myself from everything forever. Like, disconnection has its advantages, but it doesn't always work out, and it's kind of a losing battle. But sometimes it's just kind of easier not to deal with anything, and I think that's like the chorus is just totally blatant that way, and I like that the song's kind of really clean to the point that way. Broken Word started off as like a little writing session between Jay and I up at my house, which doesn't happen all too often, but it was just like this one thing he did, and it was just that simple. He started playing a bunch of chords, and the lyrics were inspired by a poem I had written my girlfriend about like these hands that she has, which are the best hands on the planet because they're little red plastic paws. They're like awful. No girl wants these hands. They're terrible. Like, she hates them. So you know, and then I don't know, I love them because I can just like study them forever, and it was this cool little tiny poem, and that's as deep as it went. And so when we set to do a song about it, the song got really dark and like way more tragic than reality. I mean, it's better hands, you know. So the first line of the poem made it, but the rest just kind of turned into like a little more cataclysmic than reality.
You can't pin whether it's happy or sad or heavy or soft, but it's uncomfortably cool, which I guess is why we pursued it. You know, it's sort of unsettling because there's moments where you think, wow, this feels pretty happy for Finger 11, but at the same time you're like, well, but it's not really. So I don't know. It's one of those cool areas of like, in between happy and sad is like probably where the good shit is.
It's not the softest song we've ever had, but it's probably the most psychedelic song, which is sort of another one of those like sort of like small steps in a direction for us. It was I mean, it's one of our favorite things to do is arrogant, as conceited as this might sound, is to sit around. We all get together after a day of just whatever mixing and stuff, and we sit in the control room and just turn it up. And it's what we were sort of hinting on before. There's definitely caught some kind of journey or like vibe through that song, which is
not the band journey.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very journey-esque, that song.
Yeah, I think once it starts, I don't know if it's like the spacey guitars or what, but I have no problem picturing just this like sort of lunar landscape, yeah. And then it just goes from there. The last album I bought was probably Travis. It's just like beautifully written music for like, I'm sure the guys in the band Travis would probably take offense, but it's great music for a guitar and a voice. But also just like a lot of like progressive stuff, just going back to like Genesis and Yes, just listening to how they were able to like craft a song out of so many parts, and it never felt boring, but it never felt overwhelming. I guess some of the Yes stuff felt a little overwhelming, but we listened to a couple Genesis records the other night, and they're all just great songs. They don't feel like they're showing off or anything like that. And that's yet another band that just like did what they did, and you'd love to be able to say you did something like that meant something.
Big influence on this album that we made is the Blinker the Star album.
Yeah,
It's just,
totally.
it's an amazing record, and we listen to it a lot. There's a staple for this record as far as sounds and just the whole writing of their music. So I think that's a great album. We all think that's a great album, and I really love Seal. That's kind of the opposite end. I like heavier stuff like Tool and the Deftones, and like we said, Faith No More, all kinds of stuff.
I just discovered Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. I don't know any other record, but I can't stop really listening to it. I get the idea that it's not just a bunch of musicians, like it's a total moment captured, which is like anybody can relate to that. And the way they use their instruments are just so much more than rudimentary. So it totally passed me by before. I was just a dumb rock guy before, but now I think I get a little more of it. So that's cool.
I tend to like music that's like has a lot of raw emotional feel to it, which sort of like is weird because I'm a big fan of like some folk artists like Elliott Smith and Ani DeFranco, and on the other hand, I'm also a big fan of like I guess like what's being called like modern punk, but like of like Millencolin and the Get Up Kids and stuff like that, which I find that I like it because I can listen to the lyrics and it's a sense of comfort in the way they tell their stories. They're not fictional stories, and you can definitely relate with them, and it makes you feel pretty. I don't know. I find that it's a kind of music that you get very close to, and it's very personal, which I like because it's an odd way to escape, but it's comforting, and it's sort of a secure feeling to like know that there's other people out there, and if it's like a song that they've written about being on the road or in relationships or just being a musician, I like the fact that I can relate to bands like that. So, but I also am a fan of anything pretty much in between folk and punk. So there you go.
I mean, it's the same bands you hear all the time. A lot of 70s classic mainstream rock, but also some progressive stuff like Genesis, Yes. But as far as, growing up, I mean, it's the same bands you hear all the time, like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. Right now, on my CD player, I've got Neil Young. It's so hard to pick like a favorite movie, but something I keep going back to again and again. And I've seen other people say it, so. But for me, it still holds true. It's Apocalypse Now. As far as actors, love Robert Duvall, Robert De Niro. Just sounds like a typical list, but that everybody seems to always talk about.
My favorite movie of the year was Fight Club, and I think my favorite movie of all time was Legend with Tom Cruise. I don't know, I love it.
For the year, or even not even the year, like past 5 years, like my favorite movie was Magnolia. It was I don't know, it was an incredible. It was actually an experience, which was pretty neat. My favorite, I don't know, favorite all-time movie still, I think Goodfellas holds up there because it's like undoubtedly the coolest movie I've seen. Fight Club gives it a pretty good run, but Goodfellas just sort of like, it's pretty hard not to like love a criminal character in that movie, and it's a weird feeling. But favorite actors, like I've always been an Al Pacino fan. I just love the way he explodes, even though it's his thing and he does it over and over again. You never get sick of it.
Favorite movie of the year was probably either Fight Club or Magnolia, probably. And me and Scott got to see the production of True West with Phil Hoffman and John C. Reilly that were in Magnolia, and that was like, that put them way up on the list of like best actors. I'd say my favorite actor is probably Johnny Depp, though. But those guys are way, way up there. Phil, if you're watching, hell of a show.
I'd say American Beauty might be the best one of the year, maybe. But there's different reasons. There's different reasons though, man. You know, like for different. And Rushmore is probably I'd say my next favorite. Like the most quoted within this band anyway. And there's just so much in that movie. Like it's really funny, but it's really heavy too. And like both are totally sincere. We don't get along all the time.
I think everyone in the band has like different ways of dealing with one another, and some people have known each other longer and have, you know, they spend more time together, and some things will get under someone's skin that won't get under someone else's. It's just like a bunch of guys hanging out. It's no different really.
Bunch of brothers, basically. It seriously is, and that sounds so cliche and cheesy, but it's sort of true. It's like you gotta be able to get along if you're gonna travel 17 hours in a van, like, you know what I mean, sleeping on each other's shoulders. So it's like, I hate that's the answer, but it's true.
It's not a dysfunctional family, but it's not like one big happy Brady Bunch family. You know, it's like a normal thing. It's like any other relationship. There's ups and downs, and that's cool. And that's probably like some of those times where you're like, you want to be at each other's throats. You can get some of the coolest stuff out of that. Get some of the aggression will come off on the record or come out in the live show or something like that. It's not. We're way blowing it out of proportion. Yeah, we get along. We get along. There's like a spot on our website called Finger F11X where we can start a forum and people can come on and chat, and there's this neat little community of people that are always there, and they don't. I don't even know if they really care if I go on there anymore, because they just, you know, they've started this thing and talk about books and movies, and it's really cool. It's a cool spot to talk to fans about things that aren't Finger 11 and aren't music, which you know, that's pretty neat, because, you know, after saying like, yeah, I saw you guys, it was pretty cool, it's pretty easy for people to run out of things to say. I know that I've done that when if I ever meet a band that I really love, after you go like, you guys are cool, then you have nothing to say. But with the internet, it's really cool because you have that time to think about what you want to say, and then you have the time to give them a proper answer, instead of trying to talk to like 6 people or no people and being sad about no one being there.
The most common response from fans, what they tell me that draws them to our music, is usually something that just kind of gets them. You know, like I understand the reaction where you hear it and like there's something just visceral, you can't even explain it. It's like, oh, that's cool. That's the reaction I like, and that's probably the second most common. The first most common is we kick so much ass that you know, that's why they like us. You know, that's the reality of the situation. The secondary one is like emotional, like, oh, that's fucking great.
The classics are the classics.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
No one's gonna mess with that.
you could put on any Beatles record or a Pink Floyd record, but I think that's, you know, it's that way with everybody, not just this band, every musician.
Well, yeah, it was sort of funny. We were joking about it the other day, and it's like, it sounds even hokey, but it's like, who would ever thought that like 2 of the bands that we agree that and all know as well as the next person is Pink Floyd and Iron Maiden. And it's like, it's like, I'm not saying that Maiden has a big influence on our music, but it's just like, you know, it's really between those 2 bands, that's what everybody likes, and it's just sort of like,
we like it so much we're comfortable enough to call it Maiden. But
Maiden. I mean, it's funny because
hereby referred to as Maiden.
Actually, Pink Floyd was probably like the go-to band for this album. Like that was like this sort of perspective and a reference, even though it's like way too big to even consider it to be a reference. It's like, you know, you don't look at the wall and go like, well, how did they do it? You know, it's fucking huge. There's no way.
movies inspired us all because we did spend a lot of time at the end of a day recording. Like after recording, we'd all chill and watch these. We ended up seeing this incredible amount of incredible movies during the making of this record, and every one of them, like, let it sort of, I guess, just like helped us escape the thought of being where we were, feeling trapped there, and we let the movies sort of take us on a journey and let us escape reality for a while. And I think we actually tried to capture that on the songs as well, because when we listen to them, we want each song to feel like it's a journey from beginning to end, and it has a beginning, it has an end, it has a climax, and it has almost like a story being told, not just lyrically but musically as well. And I think the movies influenced us to look at our songs in that sense.
If I had to choose between recording and touring, I think I would choose touring. But that's because we've been in the studio for 6 months, and the idea of going back there when we get home it's not cool at this point. But like once you get away from it for a couple months and you have these new ideas brewing in your head, you're like, man, I can't wait till we get back in the studio and it's all gonna be different this time. It's gonna take 2 weeks and we're so much better now and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You want one and then you want the other. For me, at least.
I think I choose touring. I like the live aspect, just meeting the people, like new people every day, and the traveling. I choose touring. One cool thing is that being in a band of I guess friends and like just musicians that we all respect each other. Like there's nothing like playing live with the band every night. Like just playing together. Like when you're in the studio, things are, they're done a little differently, and you're not always sitting there as a band being recorded. So I mean, we were in the studio for 6 months, and then after that we got together and started rehearsing for tours that are coming up, and it's just like it's an unexplainable feeling of like the connection you get when you're all playing together. It's just it's more powerful than any record, I think, because it's just being a part of it. It's a pretty cool feeling.
My experience, the experience wasn't administered by me. I experienced it. I went to see Elvis Costello at this wicked amphitheater. It was just, at the end of it, I can't even remember what song it was, but it had everybody singing, and it was one of those wicked magic concert moments. I'm not finished, that's why.
Okay.
No, that's enough now. You don't get the full fucking story now.
Well,
No,
someone's picking up the tab, I guess.
I went to see Elvis Costello, and it was fucking great.
A real sentimental moment.
First one's a weird
human
Stop before the camera's on now. So.
The first one's the best.
Well, I'm better. I had one more wicked point, but this totally escapes me. I'll save it for like the third record. I can't remember.
For myself, first time in Stay and Drown for the reasons that they both had to...
2 songs, guy. You can't do 2 songs.
Oh, well,
We already said.
oh, fuck it then. Fuck it, I don't have a favorite song.
You don't have a favorite song. You need 1 song. You can't do 2.
Actually, I've been on both of these. Like just like he's right, It is a good song.
I just want to say that they both had a vibe, vibey verse, whatever, that we captured. Well, you didn't want to cut me off.
No, I'm saying they were asking for 1 song. Just choose 1.
I know, nobody's going to have to stick to that.
You do.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. If you had 11 songs on a
Okay,
new
what were you
record.
saying?
Just a vibe. They both had a Stay and Drown first time have a really cool vibe. At the same time, they have a powerful chorus, and those, as far as if all the songs could be like that, I'd be totally happy. I mean,
We missed it on the
We missed it on the 9.
Yeah, the other night is shite.
No, but think For the Ocean was written kind of, wait, I'm going to start over. For the Ocean was written kind of with a sentiment, I don't know how to say this, fuck.
Just go ahead and say it.
Okay, okay, we're rolling?
Living at the studio and recording at the studio for 6 months was, at times, the greatest thing in the world. Because you know, when we were done at the end of the day, it would just be the 5 of us, and we'd just watch movies and talk about the day. And it's not like everyone. I don't know if we ever talked about the day.
Sean would come in, hang his hat up. You know, but Rick didn't have the dinner on the table. There was hell to pay.
You done your homework yet?
No, it was.
It's wasted.
It was like sometimes we all kind of lived like it was like a camp. There was bunk beds there.
Yeah, he's right.
So I mean, 5 grown males in a small bedroom together for 6 months. You know, everyone's got. It gets crazy. You know, you just want to sometimes have your own space and just go to sleep and have some time alone and just, you know, wake up next day and be ready to work. But everyone's together, sleeping in these bunk beds, and sometimes it got a little, you know, just a little weird. But in the day,
Oh my God! If you take this out of context, this is the gayest porn ever. You know, you get 5 guys in the same bedroom.
yeah,
It gets a little weird.
maybe I should start this one again.
That was amazing.
Alright.
Keep that though. I want that for my own.
Damn it.